Ethan Vale found the woman beneath the broken wing of a warship that was still whispering electricity into the mud. At first, he thought she was another statue left by the battle. The alien battlefield was full of them, frozen soldiers in cracked armor, burned drones twitching like metal insects, and flags from 3 worlds hanging from melted antennae. Then the woman breathed. "Oh, good," Ethan muttered, dropping his salvage bag. A living person, much better than haunted wreckage. Slightly more complicated, but better. She looked almost human, too beautiful for a place this ruined, with pale skin dusted by silver ash, long silver hair tangled across her face, and ears that stretched elegantly upward through the strands. Her armor was unlike anything Ethan had seen, white and gold, cracked across the ribs, glowing faintly, as if a tiny sunrise had been trapped inside it and was losing an argument. He glanced around. No medics, no soldiers, no royal banners, just smoke, dead machines, and one very unconscious alien woman bleeding blue light from a wound near her shoulder. "Well," he said, kneeling beside her, "I'm not a doctor, but I did once fix a coffee machine that exploded and insulted my mother, so let's pretend that counts." The woman's eyelids fluttered. Her hand moved weakly toward a blade at her hip, then fell. "Easy," Ethan said. "I'm not robbing you. Although your armor is probably worth more than my ship is also worth less than a sandwich." He cut away the damaged metal with a thermal tool, careful not to touch the glowing circuits beneath her skin. He cleaned the wound with emergency foam, wrapped it with human field bandage, then frowned when the bandage immediately changed color. "Blue blood. Great. My first alien patient and already the manual is useless." Ichiwa anabikis deshilamber. She woke when he lifted her head and gave her water. Her eyes opened slowly, bright violet, sharp even through pain. For a moment, she simply stared at him, as if no one in the universe had ever dared hold a cup to her lips. "You touched me," she whispered. Ethan froze. "Was I not supposed to? Because in my defense, you were bleeding on a battlefield, and there wasn't exactly a permission form nearby." Her lips parted, but no answer came. She seemed more stunned by his tone than by her injuries. He placed his folded jacket beneath her head. "There. Luxury hospital. 1 pillow. 0 walls. Excellent view of burning spaceships." A sound like thunder rolled above them. Ethan looked up. The clouds split open. Dozens of black and silver ships descended through the smoke, their engines bending the rain sideways. Armored soldiers dropped from the air in perfect formation, weapons raised, red targeting beams locking onto Ethan's chest. He slowly lifted both hands. A commander in ceremonial armor rushed forward, saw the woman on the ground, and went pale. "Human," he shouted, voice shaking with horror. "Do you realize you just touched a queen?" Ethan looked at the wounded woman, then at the army aiming enough firepower at him to erase his entire family tree. He swallowed. "So," he said carefully, "does that mean I should not ask her to pay the medical bill?" The commander's words seemed to frighten the rain itself. Every soldier froze with weapons raised, their red targeting beams trembling across Ethan's soaked jacket. Behind them, the black and silver dropships hovered like angry gods, engines humming so deeply that puddles rippled around Ethan's boots. The wounded woman tried to sit up, but pain pulled a sharp breath from her lips. Ethan immediately lowered one hand, forgot the weapons aimed at him, and caught her shoulder before she fell back. 20 rifles clicked louder. "Oh, come on," Ethan said, looking at the soldiers. She was literally falling. What was I supposed to do? Salute while she hit the mud? The commander's long ears flattened beneath his helmet. "Remove your hand from her radiant majesty." Ethan looked at the woman, then at his hand, then at the commander. "Can she vote on that? Because she seems to be the one attached to the shoulder." A strange silence followed. Several soldiers glanced at each other, as if no one had ever considered asking the queen's opinion about her own shoulder. The woman's violet eyes opened fully. Though her face was pale from blood loss, something warm and almost amused moved through her expression. "Lower your weapons," she said. No one moved. Her voice became softer, but it cut through the battlefield like a blade made of starlight. "I said lower them." One by one, the rifles dipped. The commander dropped to one knee so fast his armor splashed mud over Ethan's boot. "Majesty, forgive us. We lost your signal after the orbital strike. We believed the enemy had captured you." "They did not," she said, looking at Ethan. "This human did." Ethan's mouth opened. "That sounds bad when you say it like that." The queen almost smiled. "He captured me with a jacket. Bad jokes." And medical foam. A young guard blinked. Medical foam? Ethan pointed proudly at the bandage. Human emergency grade. It can seal wounds, patch pipes, and once held my refrigerator door closed for 6 months. The commander looked horrified. You used household repair compound on the Queen? It was in a medical box, Ethan protested. Mostly. The Queen gave a quiet laugh, then winced from the movement. The sound stunned her soldiers more than any explosion. They stared at her as if laughter had become an illegal technology. Ethan noticed her wound glowing again. She needs a real doctor, not a committee of nervous statues. The commander rose. Our royal surgeons are aboard the flagship. Great, then maybe everyone can stop pointing expensive flashlights at me and help carry her. A dozen guards rushed forward, but the Queen lifted her hand. He carries me. The commander looked as if his soul had tripped over a protocol manual. Majesty, impossible. A non-royal may not. He already did, she said. Ethan bent carefully and lifted her from the mud. She was lighter than her armor looked, but the cracked plates hummed against his arms, scanning him with golden light. A nearby soldier gasped. What now? Ethan asked. Did I accidentally marry somebody? No, the Queen murmured, resting her head against his shoulder. But you may have started a scandal. Ethan sighed and walked toward the waiting ship. Wonderful. I rescue one person and somehow become tomorrow's galactic gossip. Above them, the flagship opened its enormous landing gate, revealing a corridor of white metal, blue fire, and thousands of kneeling soldiers. Ethan stopped at the sight. The Queen, still weak, whispered, "Do not be afraid." "I'm not afraid," Ethan whispered back. "I'm just wondering if your hospital has a complaint desk, because the welcome committee is very intense." This time her smile was unmistakable. As Ethan carried her into the royal ship, every kneeling soldier bowed lower, not to the human, but to the mystery of why their untouchable queen looked peaceful in the arms of a stranger who had treated her like an ordinary wounded woman. The royal flagship did not feel like a ship. It felt like someone had stolen a palace, taught it to breathe, and then hidden a sun inside its walls. As Ethan carried the Queen through the landing corridor, white metal curved above him in graceful arches. Rivers of blue light flowed beneath transparent floors, and tiny repair drones hovered around his head like suspicious silver bees. One scanned his face, beeped angrily, and projected a warning symbol. Ethan squinted at it. "I agree. My hair does look terrible after a battlefield." The Queen, pale but awake in his arms, made a small sound that might have been laughter. The kneeling soldiers heard it and looked even more terrified. Ethan was beginning to understand that their Queen laughing was apparently more alarming than an engine explosion. At the medical chamber, royal surgeons rushed forward, wearing robes woven with glowing circuits. They stopped when they saw Ethan still holding her. "Place her radiant majesty upon the recovery throne," one surgeon said, voice trembling. "Recovery throne?" Ethan looked around and saw a golden platform surrounded by floating crystal rings. "You people really can't call anything a bed, can you?" the Queen whispered. "It is mostly a bed." Mostly is a dangerous word in medicine. He laid her down gently. The crystal rings rotated around her body, casting violet symbols into the air. Her long ears twitched at the cold touch of the scanner, and Ethan noticed how young she looked beneath all the titles, like someone exhausted from being worshipped. The surgeon touched Ethan's wrist. "You must be purified immediately." Ethan pulled his hand back. "I showered this morning, not hygienically, politically." Before Ethan could ask what a political shower was, two servants approached with a silver bowl full of shimmering smoke. The commander stood beside him, stiff as a statue. "You violated 17 sacred customs," the commander said. "Only 17? I'm improving. You carried the Queen. You spoke casually to the Queen. You argued with royal guards. You used unauthorized foam. That foam saved her life." The surgeon, studying the wound through a hologram, hesitated. "Technically, yes." The commander looked personally betrayed by science. The Queen's eyes opened. "Then perhaps we thank him before arresting him." A silence fell over the chamber. Ethan raised one finger. "I strongly support the thanking part." She sat up slightly as the recovery machine poured soft light over her injuries. Without the helmet and cracked armor, she seemed even more human, except for the elegant length of her ears and the faint stars moving beneath her skin like memories trapped in glass. "What is your name?" she asked. "Ethan Vale, salvage technician. Occasional bad decision maker." I am Queen Seralyne of the Aurelian Crown. Nice to meet you properly, your mostly bed majesty. Several servants gasped. Seralyne smiled before she could stop herself. Then the medical chamber darkened. A holographic map appeared above the recovery throne, showing the battlefield where Ethan had found her. Red marks pulsed around the wreckage in a pattern too perfect to be random. The surgeon frowned. The commander's expression hardened. "This is wrong," he said. "Her Majesty's escape pod should have landed 3 valleys east." Ethan stepped closer. "So she didn't just crash there?" "No," Seralyne said quietly. "Someone moved my signal." The room became colder than space. The drone stopped McKee. Even Ethan's jokes retreated for a moment. On the map, a hidden transmission blinked from the exact place where he had found her. The commander turned to the guards. "Seal the ship. No one leaves." Ethan looked at the Queen. "I'm guessing this is the part where my terrible day becomes historically terrible." Seralyne held his gaze, and for the first time, he saw fear beneath the crown, carefully buried, but not gone. "No," she said softly. "This is the part where I learn whether the only person who treated me like a person can help me discover who tried to make sure no one ever found me at all." Ethan expected the investigation room to be full of dark screens, angry generals, and dramatic music. Instead, it was a quiet circular chamber where the walls displayed stars moving in slow silver currents, and the table in the center looked suspiciously alive. It pulsed whenever someone lied, which made Ethan deeply grateful he had not claimed to understand royal etiquette. Queen Seralyne sat beside him, no longer in broken armor, but in a pale recovery suit threaded with gold light. Her long ears rose through her silver hair, and tiny healing symbols drifted over her shoulder like obedient fireflies. She looked calm, royal, untouchable again. Yet when the commander began speaking to her title instead of her face, Ethan noticed her fingers tighten on the edge of the chair. "The signal corruption came from inside the fleet," the commander said. "Only someone with crown-level access could redirect your Majesty's pod. So," Ethan said, "we're looking for someone important, dangerous, and very rude." The commander glared. "This is not a tavern mystery, human." "Good. Taverns usually have better chairs." Seralyne covered a smile with one hand. The table pulsed blue, as if approving the joke. The commander looked offended that furniture had taken Ethan's side. A hologram of the battlefield rose between them. Ethan studied the scattered wrecks, the false beacon, the burn marks in the soil. The alien officers spoke of quantum signatures and royal encryption layers until the words began marching around his skull, wearing tiny uniforms. Then he saw something simple. The false signal had been hidden beneath emergency rescue noise, but the mud around the wreck had dried in a perfect ring. "Wait," he said. "That crater wasn't made by a crash." Every eye turned to him. He pointed at the map. "The ground is burned outward, not inward. Something landed there before her pod arrived. Small craft, hidden engine. Whoever moved her signal was already waiting." The commander frowned. "Our scans detected nothing. Because you were scanning for warships. Try scanning for garbage." "For garbage?" "Scrap heat, leaking fuel, cheap coils. Criminals love cheap coils. So do salvage technicians, because poverty builds character and back pain." Seralyne leaned forward. "Do it." The room dimmed, the star walls shifted, and the battlefield reappeared in harsh green lines. At first there was nothing. Then, beneath the wreckage, a tiny thermal ghost blinked into view, a hidden courier drone, crushed under a fallen wing. The commander's face hardened. "Impossible." Ethan sighed. "I find that word usually means someone expensive made a mistake." The drone was brought in by floating machines and opened with laser needles. Inside was a memory crystal containing one unfinished message. The Queen survived. The human interfered. Silence swallowed the chamber. Seralyne turned slowly toward Ethan. "They know about you." "Wonderful," Ethan said. "I've been famous for 3 minutes and already hate it." Before anyone could answer, the living table flashed red. A second message awakened from the crystal, triggered by their scan. Across the walls, a masked figure appeared, voice distorted into metallic thunder. "Seralyne of the Aurelian Crown, your reign ends not because you are weak, but because you still believe kindness has value." The hologram flickered, then looked directly at Ethan. "And you, human, should have left her in the mud." Ethan felt the room's fear settle on his shoulders. Seralyne's hand moved, almost unconsciously, to the bandage he had placed earlier. The simple human fabric still covered part of her royal wound beneath all the alien medicine. Ethan cleared his throat. "Just so everyone knows, leaving injured women in mud is not part of my service policy. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Seralyne stood. The healing symbols around her flared bright gold, and her voice filled the chamber with quiet fire. Seal every deck, question every officer, and protect Ethan Vale. The commander bowed. As you command, Ethan blinked. Protect me? I thought I was helping protect you. Seralyne looked at him, and beneath the crown in her eyes was the wounded woman he had carried through the rain. You did, she said. That is why they will come for you next. The assassination attempt came disguised as a celebration, which Ethan found extremely unfair. If someone intended to murder a queen, he believed they should at least have the decency not to serve tiny glowing cakes first. The diplomatic hall of the flagship shimmered with floating banners from 27 worlds, and beneath them stood ambassadors with crystal lungs, metal feathers, transparent bones, and enough jewelry to bankrupt several moons. Queen Seralyne. White and gold gown, woven with defensive light, her long ears rising elegantly through silver hair. She looked untouchable again, but when her gaze found Ethan near the dessert table, her expression softened for half a second. Ethan lifted a little blue cake. I am protecting the snacks. The commander beside him muttered, You're supposed to watch for threats. I am. This cake is suspiciously beautiful. Seralyne approached a circle of ambassadors, speaking with calm authority, while orbital chandeliers rotated above her like captured galaxies. Ethan tried to listen, but his eyes kept drifting to the service drones gliding between guests. Most moved with perfect silence. One did not. Its left stabilizer clicked every 7 seconds, a tiny, imperfect sound hidden beneath music from a gravity harp. Click, pause, click. Ethan frowned. That drone is limping. The commander did not look. Machines do not limp. Tell that to my old water heater. It limped, screamed, and once called me father. The drone turned toward Seralyne, carrying a tray of violet crystal cups. Ethan saw something beneath the tray. Not a bomb exactly, but a pulse core, the kind used to melt shield generators from the inside. His stomach dropped. Queen, he shouted. The hall turned. Seralyne looked at him just as Ethan grabbed a decorative anti-gravity sculpture and hurled it. The sculpture, a sacred symbol of diplomatic harmony, smashed into the drone with a very undiplomatic clang. Cups flew everywhere. Ambassadors shrieked. Purple drink rained down on 3 senators and 1 offended plant being. The drone split open. A sphere of black light expanded. Seralyne raised her hand, forming a golden shield, but Ethan was already running. He tackled the tray sideways, kicking it beneath the gravity harp. The harp's energy strings snapped, wrapping the pulse core in vibrating blue light. The sphere collapsed with a sound like a star swallowing a sneeze. Then silence. Ethan lay on the polished floor, covered in violet drink. 1 cake still somehow stuck to his shoulder. He looked up. Good news, the snacks were innocent. For 1 heartbeat, no one moved. Then Seralyne crossed the hall and knelt beside him, ignoring the shocked gasps of every noble present. Are you hurt? She asked. My dignity may never recover. Her fingers touched the cake on his shoulder. You saved my life again. Technically, the musical furniture helped. I think it deserves a medal. The commander examined the destroyed drone, his face grim. This device passed royal security. It carried a crown-coated access mark. The ambassadors began whispering in fear. Ethan sat up slowly, following the spilled violet drink across the floor. It had run around everyone's feet except one man, Lord Varesh, a high advisor with silver robes and dry boots. Ethan pointed. Either he can fly, or he knew exactly where not to stand. Varesh's calm face cracked. For the first time, Seralyne's eyes turned cold. Seal the hall, she commanded. The doors closed with thunder. Varesh stepped backward, but holographic chains erupted from the floor, locking around his wrists. He smiled thinly, no longer pretending. You value the human too much, Majesty. Seralyne stood between Ethan and the advisor. No, I value what you forgot. Varesh tilted his head. And what is that? She looked down at Ethan, soaked, bruised, and still wearing cake like a badge of honor. That a person who protects another without asking their rank is more loyal than 1,000 nobles bowing for power. Ethan raised a hand. Beautiful speech, very moving. But after this, can we please attend one event where nobody tries to kill anyone before dessert? Destidas? Varesh did not break under questioning. He stood inside the holographic restraint field, with his silver robes untouched, his wrists glowing where the chains held him, and smiled as if imprisonment were merely an inconvenient change of furniture. Around him, the command chamber darkened while Queen Seralyne's officers pulled hidden data from the assassin drone. Streams of red code rose like blood-colored rain, revealing names, routes, secret payments, and one terrible destination, the old shield moon of Thalor, where half the Royal Fleet's defense system was controlled. Seralyne stood before the map, silver hair falling over her shoulders, long ears sharp against the blue light. Her wound had not fully healed, but her voice carried the calm weight of a throne. Varesh was not acting alone. The commander bowed. A faction of nobles has already seized Thalor. If they activate the moon cannon, they can force every loyal ship to surrender. Ethan raised his hand. Just to confirm, moon cannon means cannon on a moon, not cannon that shoots moons, right? No one answered. Ethan slowly lowered his hand. I hate how quiet everyone got. Seralyne turned to him. They intend to crown Varesh after I am declared unfit. Varesh laughed softly from his prison field. Unfit because you chose a human mechanic over ancient law. You let him carry you, touch you, speak to you like a dock worker with unpaid taxes. Hey, Ethan said, my taxes are only emotionally unpaid. The Queen's eyes did not leave Varesh. You mistook kindness for weakness. No, Varesh said. I recognized weakness wearing kindness as perfume. Seralyne stepped closer, and the gold lights in her recovery suit brightened. Then watch carefully. The flagship jumped to Thalor within the hour. Space folded open like black silk, revealing the shield moon wrapped in stolen defense satellites. Green laser grids circled it, and rebel ships waited in formation. The loyal fleet slowed, trapped by its own security codes. Our weapons are locked, the commander said. They still have crown access. Ethan stared at the tactical screen, then at the maintenance diagram beneath it. Your entire royal defense system runs through one ceremonial approval circuit. It is sacred architecture. It is a doorbell with jewelry. Seralyne looked at him. Can you bypass it? Ethan cracked his knuckles. Majesty, I once restarted a reactor by kicking it and apologizing. Let's offend history. While rebel ships charged their weapons, Ethan crawled beneath the control dais with 3 horrified engineers. He found the approval circuit glowing behind layers of crystal seals. Instead of using royal codes, he connected his salvage scanner, a broken medical sensor, and the last strip of human bandage from his pocket. The engineer whispered, that fabric is not compatible. Neither am I, but everyone keeps inviting me. The system sparked. Across the fleet, locked cannons awakened one by one. Seralyne opened a channel to every ship, her face appearing across the stars. This crown was never meant to protect my pride, she said. It was meant to protect my people. Any noble who forgot that may surrender now. The rebels fired first. Seralyne raised the flagship's shields, and Ethan's patch circuit redirected the moon cannon's energy back into its own satellites. They burst in silent white flowers around Thalor. Loyal ships surged forward, disabling rebel engines with precision beams. Varesh, still watching from captivity, finally lost his smile. Seralyne gave the final command herself. Take Thalor, spare every soldier who lays down arms. Ethan slid out from under the console, hair smoking slightly. Good news, I only broke 3 sacred things. The commander stared at the revived fleet. You saved the Empire. Ethan sat up exhausted. Then please tell the Empire it owes me a sandwich. Seralyne laughed, and this time the officers did not look afraid. They looked relieved. In the glow of victory, she turned toward Ethan, not as an untouchable queen, but as the woman he had found in the mud and refused to abandon. The victory ceremony was held not in the throne hall, but on the same battlefield where Ethan had first found Seralyne, beneath the broken wing of a warship. The mud had dried, the wreckage had been cleared, and silver grass now grew where blue blood had once touched the ground. Above them, the repaired royal fleet floated in quiet formation, not as a threat, but like lanterns guarding the dawn. Seralyne stood before her people in white armor restored with gold light, her silver hair moving in the soft wind, her long ears uncovered for all to see. She looked every inch a queen, yet when Ethan stood awkwardly beside her in a borrowed ceremonial coat, she leaned close and whispered, "You look uncomfortable. I am wearing clothing that has buttons with security clearance." Ethan whispered back, "One wrong move, and my sleeve may declare war." Her smile warmed before she faced the crowd. Varesh and the rebel nobles had been sentenced to exile on Thalor, stripped of command and forced to rebuild the shield systems they had tried to steal. The soldiers who surrendered were pardoned after swearing loyalty not to the crown's pride, but to its people. The commander, once stiff as a protocol statue, now stood near Ethan and quietly handed him a small plate. Ethan blinked. "Is this a sandwich? You requested one from the Empire." Ethan accepted it solemnly. "I withdraw half my complaints." Seralyne raised her hand, and a hologram appeared above the field. The moment Ethan had carried her through the rain, jacket under her head, medical foam glowing badly but bravely on her wound. Murmurs moved through thousands of citizens. "I was taught," Seralyne said, "that a queen must never be touched, never be questioned, never be seen as ordinary. But when I was dying in the mud, one human ignored every sacred rule and remembered the only rule that mattered." She turned to Ethan. "Help the wounded." The crowd fell silent. Ethan looked down, no longer the lonely salvage technician who believed his life was worth less than the broken machines he repaired. He had crossed armies, conspiracies, and royal traditions, and somehow learned that ordinary kindness could bend the course of empires. Seralyne continued, "From this day forward, no title shall stand above compassion, no law shall punish mercy, and no person in my empire will be treated as untouchable when what they need is a hand." The commander bowed first, then the soldiers, then the citizens. Not in fear, but in agreement. Ethan cleared his throat. "For the record, I still recommend asking before touching royalty. Saves paperwork." Laughter rolled across the field, bright and human and alien together. Seralyne laughed with them, freely this time. When the ceremony ended, she walked with Ethan to the place where the wrecked wing had been. A small marker now stood there, engraved not with her title, but with two words, "Someone helped." Seralyne touched the marker gently. "You changed my empire." Ethan looked at the sky, where ships crossed the sunrise like silver birds. "You changed my opinion of queens. I used to think they were terrifying. And now? Now I think they are terrifying, but occasionally excellent company." She smiled, and the last shadows of war seemed to loosen around them. In the years that followed, children across distant moons would hear the story of the human who found a queen and treated her like a person, and of the queen who learned that being untouchable was not strength at all. It was distance. True strength was reaching back,